Hi guys, Frank with Tiny Plastic Spaceman, and in this video I'm going to show you the classic Heavy Metal Masterclass book from 2011. So this is considered to still be one of the classics of instructional painting books, especially when it comes to the Games Workshop publications that they used to release. I'm pretty sure this is the most recent heavy metal book that you can get these days. I bought this on eBay for just under £25. That's about $30 or $35. So you can still find it, and this one is in pretty good condition, although I have dropped it once, so I've devalued it slightly, but it doesn't matter. This is one of those books that I'm definitely intending to keep and refer to, for hopefully for years to come. First thing to look at when you're flipping through a new book is always the table of contents, and looking at this you can definitely see that there's a few of the older models in here. You can see that there specifically says the Games Day 2009 Chaos Lord, so that does date the book quite a bit, but the techniques that are used in it are definitely fairly timeless. So this is going to be a pretty useful book no matter what models that you're putting these on. The other thing to note is that there's a Citadel color chart in there. I don't think that that is going to be any of the current available colors or paints that are being used. So here in their example of painting blue on Captain Sicarius, of course it is blue over black. They use Chaos Black as the primer coat for everything. You can see in that number one base coating, and then adding a shade using a mix of the base color and black, and then adding on the highlights. Now these are all, it is definitely worth noting that these are all done in glazes, considering this is a heavy metal book. These are all done in glazes, so it's not literally you go from step one and then step two is one glaze layer of the shade. That's several glaze layers of the shade, and then step three is several glaze layers of the highlights, and then working building up the highlights and so forth. That's one of the things that I think they don't really highlight too much. I think it's worth mentioning that. Of course, this is, like I said, this book is 10 years old, so it's a little bit, the horse is out of the barn at this point, but it is something I've noticed even in the current, whatever they call it, in the new, the latest White Dwarfs, the Paint Splatter, I think, section is what it's called. They tend not to really mention how many layers of glaze. Basically you add in as many layers as until you get the effect that you want, but that could be 5 layers of glazing, 10 layers of glazing, 15 layers of glazing, who knows. So that's worth remembering, that these aren't literally a brush stroke and then they take a photo. It's many layers of glazing. So here's another helpful bit, just specifically saying that at the same time that all of the major armor pieces were done, the separate sub-assemblies were also done. So you can see the blue gloves there and the backpack done at the same time. So just continuing with this same model, in this case we're starting from a dark gold going to the pure gold color, and then building up highlights, and then shading again, and then highlights, and then extreme highlights in that step 6 with the mithril silver. Now one of the things where I especially like to see glazing do its magic is on cloth, and so you can see here on that red, steps 1 through 6, the steps of the glazing. Now this is really cool, seeing how this was done on the freehand. So it's not all, it's not all done just in one go. Draw it out on paper and then do it with the brush, do some touch-ups, and then add in your highlights and shading. So that is Captain Sicarius. There's quite a bit more to it. Obviously there's the banner, there's cloth on the banner, there's gold on the banner, and that sort of thing. There's a little bit of non-metallic metal done on this one. There's Skull Taker is a good one, because obviously loads of skulls. They use some really good examples in this book, and considering it's from the pages of the White Dwarf publication at the time, it's some very good examples. Now one of the steps I really liked was showing how they do the paint chips here. So you can see on the pure yellow doing the a lighter golden yellow, so it's sort of three mixes of well, two different yellows and a skull white, and then adding in the rust in step 2, and then 3 adding in some silver, and then 4 adding in the extreme silver. So it's pretty good information there, and of course that's done over all of the model, and you end up with something that looks like that. It's very, very good. And of course this particular model also highlighted a bunch of the conversion bits that were used from an existing plastic kit. So there's nothing super special. They even lay out all of the pieces that were used and where they go and why they're added in. So some really good stuff here, and there's a bunch of models that aren't shown in a step-by-step format, such as these Dark Eldar and Tyranid and some other Space Marines. So some very good stuff here. And here's that 2009 Games Day Chaos Lord. You can still see this pop up on eBay for silly prices. Now there's a good steps on the face, but I believe there's another a better face to look at. Some really good examples here for the lightning claw effect. It's pretty cool. More battle damage, and here's some Middle Earth models. Here's a good section on the face, of course using some pale elf tones. So you can see where the steps go and how it gets finer and finer detail, of course, as it should. So you got Yuri and Rakarth, got some scaving, you can see the square bases there. Now there are some helpful tip areas such as this directional lighting, so basically OSL as its shorthand, and they even mention it there, object source lighting. And they give you some very helpful tips on if you want to have, say, green flames, blue flames, plasma glow, that sort of thing. They give you some specific examples of color and steps of color that you can use there. So here's a really good on the Demon Prince, which is still a current model. Here's a bunch of stuff. Now of course you can just use just different colors, but this is done on a purplish and blue tinged demon face. But there's a bunch of steps there on how to get the different effects with several steps of shading. So there's lots and lots of steps there. So it's a really good example of showing how they do the face and how it ties in with the rest of the model. You know, especially on a heavy, a large, fleshy model like the Demon Prince. And then there's the finished effect. Really, really cool. So Dreadlord, Chaos Lord. Oh, is this the Games Day one? Yeah, this is the game state one, sorry. And here's non-metallic metal. Is I'm sure there's a whole heap of books that you can get for it and YouTube videos, but this is a pretty decent starter point for it. And of course, a lot of the techniques, like the fabric, just transfer straight over. You just have, there's a few more details like those tears in the cloak and stuff like that, and then getting some dirty, muddy effects on this here. So there's another heavy flesh and armor creature there. So here's, I think this is going to be, this is some non-metallic metal here, because this is one of the really most popular models to do non-metallic metal on. As you can see the effects there. This is bleach bone, dark flesh, snakebite leather, which really gives away because that's not an existing paint anymore, except in the new contrast paints. So yeah, that's not metal, that's non-metallic metal paints. So there's no glitter bits or anything like that. Now recently Games Workshop has released some gem effect paints, and here's how they used to do it back in the old days. Parchment, another really popular one. And there's the old Citadel color chart from way back when. And so that is it. So hopefully that was helpful to you. Check out other painting tip and book review videos just up there. There's plenty more to see on the channel. Check us out, TPS Painting Studio on Instagram, and Tiny Plastic Spaceman. Just search for Tiny Plastic Spaceman on Facebook, YouTube, and online. And please don't forget, if you find this video informative or helpful in any way, please give us a like. If you want more videos like this, check out those subscribe buttons down below. Don't forget to click the bell icon to get notified whenever there's a new video online. And if you have any questions, just ask in the questions down below. I read every single comment and I answer as many as I can.